go. So that's it for the 84 Ironhead. It's good to run. They're gonna get it over to the good old DMV and get it inspected, get it registered in California. The bike is gonna come back. We're gonna do risers and a couple other little modifications. But yeah, I'm stoked, she's stoked. That's her first bike. So she's actually gonna go get her license, and then that's gonna be her her daily ripper. So we're gonna be moving on. So next thing we're gonna be working on here is Robert's 1996 Dyna. Had an issue with the nose cone leaking, and when I pulled it apart, I found that the back spacing on the camshaft was set incorrectly from whoever put it in. So I'm gonna get that set up, get new gaskets on the nose cone. It's got a new set of push rods we're putting in, and we're gonna get this thing ready because he's riding this thing to Chopper Fest this weekend. So here we go.
What it do, baby? What it do? Website is live. Go buy yourself some t-shirts or a jacket or a long sleeve or whatever your heart desires. Click the link in the description to get there. Hell yeah!
This camshaft, as you can see on this indicator, right now I have it zeroed out. So what you're gonna do is get your indicator tip on the nose of the cam, push it all the way in up against the motor, and then when I pull on this thing, we'll be able to see how much space it has. So that's all the way around that way. So we're talking, we're at like 78 thou. That's 78 thou the camshaft is allowed to move in and out inside the motor. That's way over, that's even over the factory Harley spec. I'm gonna go ahead and replace the gasket. So when you do these jobs, you're gonna need to get usually 2 or 3 of these gaskets. You wanna get them from the same manufacturer, that way they're the same thickness. We're gonna shim the camshaft end play to within 10 to 15 thou. That's where I like to set them up. I've had good experience with that number and I haven't had any issues. So that's what we're gonna do today. Come on, baby. Okay. Here's our old gasket. As you can see, they use silicone and all kinds of shit on it. We're not gonna do that. On EVOs, you have 2 timing marks. You have one on the crankshaft gear. I don't fucking see it. That's weird. I'll have to look for it. Then you have another one on the breather. The idea is that you line up this dot on the breather, this line with the crank. That way you know your cam timing is set up correctly. So when you're setting your cam back spacing, you're using this spacer plus a shim that goes in behind it. Now what I was talking about earlier, those little bit of witness marks on the cam. Like I said, there's no issue with the actual lobe itself. The lobes are good. This is actually where and we'll show it later in the video, where the edge of the lifter was coming in contact with the lobe. No damage to the lobe face itself, but yeah, it's definitely not good. But I think this cam is runnable. This is an Andrews EV59. It's burning pretty good. Usually the color of the plugs, you want them to look like a perfectly cooked marshmallow. Just a nice little tan to them. This bike, when he got it, was sitting for a long time. And basically, I just went through and changed the oil, did some wiring. There were some wiring issues, and got it running. Yeah, color looks good. We're a little old, but color looks good. Okay, should be coming up on a line. There's no fucking line on the goddamn. I can't find my mechanic's mirror, and I can't seem to find the timing dot on this thing, so I'm trying to see if it's on the backside. This mirror isn't gonna work. I can't get it in there enough. Bitch. There we go. That was not very tight either. Oh, there it is. Fucking bitch. Yep, right there. Not the best idea to be hammering on your crank with a wrench, but luckily it wasn't that tight. Wow, okay, cool. Crisis averted. I'm actually gonna put a little paint mark where I know my timing mark has to be. Good on this. this one too, just to be okay. It's a red Loctite on there. Spec says 35 foot-pound. That's what we're gonna give her. Okay, perfect. All right, back in the saddle. Let me get this thing back in neutral so we can turn the motor over. Okay, now we can actually get started. See, and I should have been able to see that. Look at that. It's right there, plain as day. How was I not able to see that? What a waste. Okay, we got a line on our cam and a dot for the breather. And boom. That's how we're going to set up the timing. What we're doing here, usually you'd use a thread chaser, but if you're careful, tap's just as good. You got to clean all the crap out of these threads. Look at all that shit. Look at all that shit. I'm sure somebody's going to be in the comments. Why aren't you using a thread chaser? Why would you put a tap in there? Those are the best. Want to make sure your sealing surface is nice and clean. Try not to knock any big chunks into the case, obviously. So when we measured it earlier, we knew that we were at, what was it, do you remember?
78.
78 thousandths. So if we're shooting for 10 to 15, we would do a little bit of math. We're gonna go for 12 thousandths. So we would do 78 minus 12. That is 60. 78 minus 12. What is that? 66? No, 56? 68, 66, yeah. So we're gonna try to find ourselves a shim in my pack of shims that's 66. So, way different gaskets. So, we're gonna end up wasting a gasket. That's okay. That's why you get 3 of them. Okay. So, let's get a better base measurement using this gasket. There we go. Now, to be really precise, we're going to want to run the same torque every time we measure on these 1/4-20s. Okay. Okay, let's check our end plate now. Let's see where we're at. Some people do it with a feeler gauge. I like the indicator method better. Okay, let's see where we're at. Well, about the same. About 77. So, we will do 77 minus 10 equals 67. 77 minus 15, 62. So, we need a shim somewhere between 62 thou and 67 thou. So, 76, 70, 55. Boom. 65, 66. What do we say?
67.
Perfect. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to take our camshaft back out. We're going to put this little shim in there, double check our measurements, and then we know we have the correct shim for the cam spacing. Every time you do this, you're going to use a new gasket. That's why I got 3 of them. So, we got this one. We're going to waste it because they compress. Second one, we're going to double check that we're correct. We're going to waste that one because I got to open this thing back up. When I go to clean all this stuff, you probably could have saved one of them if I would have cleaned them first, but it's okay. They're cheap enough that it really doesn't matter. There we go. Pull our camshaft out. Slap in spacer. our gasket. Like I said before, you could make this the last step if you had everything prepped to go, but we still got to put assembly lube on, clean the inside of this case, so not going to worry about it right now. We'll do that after we get this shim fitted. Gonna be a lot less movement on this one. All right, we're at 0, 11. I'll take that, dude. I'll take that. Hell yeah. So we got the right size spacer. We don't have to wait for more parts to come in, which is awesome. So next thing we're gonna do is take this back apart. These gaskets are gonna be fun to scrape off because they're glued on there. Yeah, the first one came off real easy. This one, oh, there we go. That one's pretty good. Not too shabby. Looks like they didn't glue them down actually. It was just stuck, so that's nice. Trying to minimize the amount of shit that we knock down inside the motor. The stainless that these blades are made out of are harder than the aluminum, so you can dig in and gouge the aluminum. You want to try not to do that. And especially with how thin these gaskets are, any little bit of shit that gets in between the gasket material and the surface it's sealing can cause an annoying leak. You really want to avoid packing shit in here and in here because those are the oil passages for the lifters. So we figured out today finally that this motor, we knew it was aftermarket. Cases are from Ultima. Jugs are S&S and the heads are S&S. So if I remember correctly, I'll have to look it back up. That camshaft requires that you run stronger valve springs and some other stuff in the valve train. So this motor definitely built and it hauls ass. I mean, it shakes and bakes. Sounds really good too through the thunderheader. But we really just don't know because the guy we bought it from, his brother owned it. His brother had passed away and it sat, and you know, it's a tale as old as time. But once we got it running, we realized it's a pretty rowdy setup. So for the price that he paid for it, I think he got a pretty damn good deal. We got our mating surface for our lifter blocks cleaned up. We've got the inside of the cam chest cleaned up. We're gonna go ahead and install our camshaft. We're gonna use a healthy amount. I like to use the Lucas assembly lube. Just put a healthy amount on there. I'm not too worried about it because this isn't brand new. This thing's had some oil on it for a while. I already checked the cam bearing. It's been changed to full roller cam bearing, which is what we like. Oil pump works. We're gonna go ahead and just double check, make sure that we are still within spec on our end play. Perfect. 11. We're shooting for 12, but a thou tighter than that, that's okay. Like I said, Harley specs are 1 thou to 50. I try to shoot between 10 and 15. 11, I will call it good. So, next step is going to be getting our lifter blocks cleaned up and ready to go on here. I'm going to show you guys how to install those correctly because you don't just bolt them in. If it's a factory lifter block, they're going to say in the casting, front and rear. Obviously it's been cut off a little bit, but you can still read it. You're going to want to make sure that it's not turned at all. That's how you set these things correctly, that they go into their groove so that they're not getting twisted when they go down on the base circle of the camshaft. So you got to make sure you have these little tools. Let me go grab one. So this is what I was talking about. It's got the thread that goes into the case, and then this taper engages the hole of the lifter block. That's what aligns them. So the gaskets on the front and rear are also different. They can't be intermatched. They're close, but can't mix them up. This is our front gasket. I like to put a little bit more of the goods on the cam. They make these special tools to hold the lifters up. But on the front one, we can get them in without having to worry about it too much. So there's that one. You can let the lifters fall down on the lobe. And we'll use this guy. Let me go grab the tool. Fucking coffee gave me heartburn, goddammit. It's fucking horrible, dude.
Where'd you get it from?
My wife.
I was trying to kill you.
Probably fucking poisoning me. I would understand. I'd poison me too. Yeah, you know, she smiled at me kind of funny when she was making it for me this morning too. If anybody sees this, and I ended up dying of a poisoning, it's definitely my wife. We're actually going to torque this to the same. Now the idea is you leave those centering bolts in there, get your other two installed, and take the centering bolts out, put the correct bolts in. That's the idea, at least. I thought, oh yeah, quit smoking cigarettes, I'm not going to have heartburn anymore. Turns out you got to stop doing all kinds of shit to not get heartburn. An example of somebody putting way too much Loctite in something, and it's red, which just fucking no. So with this one, you can't really reach in there and hold it, so you just gotta be quick. Put our centering pins in. Jesus Christ. Alrighty. Got our lifter blocks all torqued down. So, you saw how tedious that was, but it's really important to make sure, like I said, that these things are centered. You don't want to screw up the rollers on your lifters and screw up your cam lobe and screw up your bike. Also, I don't know, kind of goes without saying, but don't take my advice. If you don't know what you're doing, make sure you take it to a professional, because I'm not responsible for you fucking your bike up. All right, I need to take a break. Another project. It's like all the important stuff's there, you know.
Yeah. Sharon gonna be on YouTube?
Yeah, yes, she is. Filming everything, dog.
How you guys liking the YouTube grind?
It's fun, dude.
It's fun?
Yeah.
Good times?
Is that battery any good?
I got no idea.
Okay.
Yeah, his front end just flops over. It's just fucking...
Oh yeah. So we took a little break from working on the old Dyna because my buddy Ian showed up to drop off his lady's sporty chopper. This is Cheyenne's bike. All the hard parts done. It's been hardtailed. Needs to be wired, plumbed. Everything needs to be checked, but should be a fun, quick little project. Alrighty. So next thing we're gonna do is get our push rods and push rod tubes installed. So these are S&S quickie adjustables. Now the idea behind these is that they collapse small enough to where you don't have to take off your rocker boxes to get these in. These are a great upgrade. They're stronger than factory. Anytime you're putting like a higher lift cam or Anything where the base circle of the camshaft is different than the factory base circle, then these are the way to go. We've got 2 longer ones and 2 shorter ones. Your longer ones go on the outside, and your shorter ones go on the inside. Done. Just kidding. We actually have to, we got new seals for our pushrod tubes, so we're gonna rebuild the stock ones. As you can see, this one's kind of flattened out. So we're gonna take these things apart, clean them, and do all new seals for them. Most hydraulic lifters, unless they are like a short distance lifter or anything like that, the amount of travel in that lifter is about 200 thousandths. We are going to be setting our lifter preload at half that, so 100 thousandths. So the way that you calculate that, we know that the thread pitch on the quickie adjustable pushrod is 32 threads per inch. So what that means is every rotation of this pushrod is 1/32 of an inch. And we know that 1 divided by 32 equals 31 thousandths. So 100 thousandths, then we would do 0.100 divided by 0.031. That equals 3.22 full revolutions. Now, we're going to times that by 6 because we're going off the flats on the pushrod. There's 6 flats on every nut, and that means it's going to be 58 flats, I think, if I did my math correctly. I don't know. I'll double check before I actually do it. It's a lot harder to fucking explain shit as you do it than just fucking do it. Like, you know. We take a look at our pushrod tubes. The idea is that they collapse when they go in there. This extends out to seal between your cylinder head and your tappet block, and then you have these little pushrod tube clips that hold everything tight up inside the cylinder head. You don't have different length pushrod tubes. When you get new sets, people will trim them to fit. That's why these are trimmed kind of funky, but they're all the same. Push rods themselves, they're adjustable, so you could probably put the wrong push rods in there and it would still run, but that's not how it's designed. The fatter one of these 2 O-rings is what goes up here on the top of your pushrod tube. The skinnier one, this little guy, is what sits inside the pushrod tube and seals against this bevel. You don't want to mix those up, you're going to have a hard time. So we're going to put a light coat of assembly lube on this O-ring. Put it on there. And there you go. This is one pushrod tube. So on these, first thing you put on, a little metal shim. That goes down inside the lifter block, and then goes the O-ring. That seals up against this surface on the pushrod tube. These big fat ones, this guy goes up inside the cylinder head. There's a little boss. Make sure that is seated all the way up in there. Next, we're going to take our shorter pushrod, take our pushrod tube seal, slide our pushrod up inside of there. A lot of people, when they're doing these adjustments, they like to use clothespins. I'm going to show you guys a little bit of a different method that I like to use, mainly because I don't really have clothespins laying around. Like, I don't know who does. I have zip ties, so it's basically the same idea, but using zip ties. So let's get this guy up in here. Do the same with the rear cylinder. Now we're leaving these completely collapsed, and I'm going to show you why here in a sec. If you do not follow the correct sequence of putting these push rods in, you can actually bend a valve and really screw your motor up. So be careful when you're doing it. Consult a professional. Don't just go off of my stupid YouTube videos. Longer one goes up in there. Now we're going to leave these collapsed for now. what we're gonna do is get a jack underneath the bike, just enough to get the rear tire off the ground. We're actually gonna use the rear tire to turn the motor over. All right, that's all we need. I like to put the motor in 5th gear, or whatever the highest gear is. That usually gives us a 1-to-1 rotation. Makes it easier to find our top dead center. The way that we find top dead center, you can go off the marks on the flywheel, but just in case you don't have those, what you're gonna do, if you know how a 4-stroke works, you have your intake valve opens. As it's coming back down, it closes. You have your compression stroke, boom, fire, power stroke, exhaust opens, and then it closes. We're gonna watch our pushrod tubes. As this rotates, we're gonna see those pushrods move up and down. To make it a little easier to see here, this will push. Get our pushrod tube up out of the way. That way we can go to make an adjustment. We can actually get to it. Focusing on one cylinder at a time. You don't have to crank these zip ties down, you want them to slide a little bit. Okay. So intake's opening, that means the piston's going down. Both of our push rods are down at the cam base circle. What we're gonna do now is actually take a look inside of the case and see what our marks look like. Boom. You can see through the timing hole, that's the line in our crankshaft. That's how we know this thing is at top dead center. Okay, so right there, I want to open it just enough where we don't have any up and down play. So pretty much no up and down play. All right, so according to S&S and Jim's, they want four full turns on the push rods, approximately 125 thousandths preload on that lifter. So 4 turns total equals 24 flats. So I don't know how I got 58 earlier, my math was off. A little trick that I've learned, if you're like me and you lose your place or what have you, best thing you can do so that you count the flats correctly, put just a little paint mark on there. Actually, you can put it up here too. Put one there. I'm gonna hold that. We're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 1 full rotation. 6. What we've got to do here is basically use 3 wrenches at the same time. So you can have one holding the lower push rod, the lower part of the push rod, one holding the other. You got to hold these together. You don't want to change this between this. These are just lock nut. This one right here is a lock nut. So you hold these two together. See how that turned a little bit? And you lock that guy to that guy. And that one's set. Next, we're gonna do the back. All right, I'm gonna let those sit. You gotta let them sit and decompress before you move the motor. On the rear cylinder, it's the same operation, but you obviously have to rotate the motor. We're approaching top dead center. The rear cylinder. Okay, that's top dead center. And we're gonna do the same type of adjustment in the rear as we did in the front. Once you actually preload the lifters, you're gonna wanna let this thing completely sit. Do not try to rotate the motor, do not do anything. I just did the rear, and they're still preloaded. So what that means is it's depressing the piston inside the lifter, but that valve is actually open. If you rotate your motor, you're gonna smack the piston on the valve and fuck your motor up. So don't try to turn it over, don't try to rotate it with the wheel, don't do anything. You just take a minute, let it bleed down the lifter, and then once you can actually rotate the whole thing by hand, you're gonna go ahead and lock the lock nuts and you'll be good to go. We've got our push rods locked. We're able to rotate these by hand now, so we know that there's no pressure on there. We're gonna give the motor a rotation, make sure nothing locks up. Cut our zip ties. Oh, it's a high lift cam, baby. Cool. No stickiness. Doesn't sound like a valve's hitting nothing. Should be good to go. So now, all we gotta do is slide our push rod collars up into the cylinder head. Oh, yeah, they're a little bit of a bitch. There's that one. Slide this one down. All this would have been easier if I would have just pulled that damn intake off. I'll tell you what. Damn it. Sometimes these get a little tight. I'm sure there's a special tool for this, but I've always just used a flathead screwdriver. Sometimes they'll grind the corners to make it a little easier. Damn it. God damn it. Dude, these are not supposed to be this bad. I've never had them be this hard to put on. Of course, you know, when I don't want to look like a total idiot. Look at that. That's how it's supposed to fucking fit. Jesus Christ. Now, I'm gonna pull these old ass exhaust gaskets out. There we go. These things are fucking crusty, boy. Alright. I gotta get that exhaust bracket put on real quick, and then we'll be able to mount the exhaust. That should be it. Fucking tired, dude. It's been a long ass day on this here bike. We have ran the camera completely out of batteries. So we are finishing filming via cell phone. Getting the plugs back in. It's pretty much done. Got to go through and do some fine tuning, but we just want to see if it'll fire. So that's what we're working on right now. Gas to the on position. Choke on. Of course the fucking battery's dead. Of course. We're gonna have to come back to this one. Well, we couldn't end a video on a bad note like that, so we got Robert's bike all done. Ended up having to replace the O-ring on the clutch cable because it split. It was leaking a little bit and it needed a battery charge, but this thing's up and running and ready to go to Chopper Fest. So
So if you guys like what you see, please like and subscribe for more. If you want to get more up-to-date videos, please follow me on all social media at Yeti Machine Co. That's Instagram, TikTok. I think that's it. Thanks, guys.